understand what motivates you and then dig deeper to understand why it motivates you. Because if it motivates you because of significance, when you get it, you're not going to be motivated anymore.
If you want to get to the next level of your life, you're going to have to figure out which of these M's is the most important to you, and then figure out the way in which that has wired you up to this point.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where we talked about the 10 most powerful books that we have read and their takeaways. Today, for episode number 469, we are going to talk about what motivates you. He says.
I think that if you're out there right now, all of us struggle with this.
Oh, yeah.
Motivation comes and goes, ebbs and flows. And I think that there are micro motivations and macro motivations. And I think that the point of this episode, to provide context, is Kevin and I want to give you a framework to understand yourself at a deeper level so that you can try your best to unlock your own motivations. I remember early in my fitness coaching journey, back when I used to do fitness coaching, I used to do the 4 M's of motivation, and I used to take my clients through this. And I'll just give you the framework. So
Tai Lopez.
Yeah, so Tai Lopez came up with this, and I heard it one time, and I take my clients through this exercise. So the 4 M's of motivation. The first one, and I'll just give you them in my order, just because that's how I think of them, but just understand this is my order and that it's probably different for you. Number 1, mastery/status. Number 2, movement/freedom. Number 3, mating/romance. And then number 4, materials/money. Now, we all have all 4, but we have a really big 2. And so if you know your first 2, you most likely know what motivates you. The question becomes, are you leveraging what motivates you? So what I used to do with my clients is I used to say, okay, I want you to take each of the M's of motivation and I want you to write down 12 goals under each. Dreams, like this can be macro. Okay, anything you want to accomplish under each of these. So for mating/romance, for example, it can be I want a next level marriage with a woman who's super growth oriented and loves books, and we can read books together. Okay, that can be 1. 12. Then I have them narrow it down to 3 under each. Now, the cool part about this exercise is that when you do this, you start to realize which one are your more important ones because you have more goals under them. So I remember I was doing this with Amy early in the fitness coaching journey. It's a long time ago. And she realized, she thought her syntax was some mastery first, I think. What we found out is that her actual most important one was mating/romance. But she didn't know that about herself because we all try to convince ourselves of a story. You have who you really are, and then you have what you wish you were or what you've convinced yourself you are. Here's what I noticed with a different client too. Her name was Monique. I won't give last names. She thought that mating/romance was her last one, when in reality, and I know she wouldn't mind me saying this, she convinced herself that it wasn't important to her because usually the one that has the most fear is actually the one that's most important because we've been hurt the most in that one. And so we have a subconscious aversion to pain. It's called the pain aversion tendency. And what I found many times doing this exercise with many different clients, all different types of clients too, E's, M's, S's. And what I found every time is that the one that you care about most is usually the one that you have the most trouble writing things under. And usually it's mating/romance because that's, I think, what we all really crave, but it's caused us a lot of pain. So we've tried to convince ourselves that we don't care about it.
Interesting. I with one of my clients, and again, the reason we're doing this is because when you figure out what really motivates you, it's going to do a couple things. It's going to help you get what you actually want, and it's going to help you avoid falling into the trap of seeking something out that you don't.
Right.
So one of my clients, I believe his top 2 were materials and possessions and movement/freedom. Mm-hmm. And he wanted, and I talked about this recently, he wanted to be an orthodontist. Mm-hmm. And I asked why. And he said, well, I want to help people with their smiles. Smile is such an important thing. I said, that's amazing. That's amazing. Do you think you'll be able to get the level of movement and freedom you want with that job? And we talked about it, and we went through it, and I said, because you're looking at X amount of school, right, you're going to have to open up a place, you're going to have to be there for a while.
Right.
Right. And now he's doing real estate.
Yeah.
And he's done 3 or 4 flips, because with real estate, you have ultimate freedom.
Right.
You can do whatever you want, whenever you want. And as long as you have the right cash flow, you can do that. So that completely changed his life, understanding what motivated him.
Right.
On another end, very similar to, if you're motivated most by romance,
Right.
by mating and romance, that's a dangerous game.
Oh, yeah.
That can be any of these can be a dangerous game.
Yeah.
But that's the specific one there where I've always seen what'll happen is somebody will find somebody that piques their interest. We'll just say that. They find somebody that's like, oh, I'd love to date that person. Imagine what that would be like. Oh, the kids and the house, that'd be awesome.
Right.
The problem is when that person leaves, so does your motivation.
Right.
And it's like that with a lot of these, but when it comes to the mating and romance one, I've always thought that that's a dangerous one.
Right. What's interesting when you're saying that, you talk about your why power always being Taryn. And so you're leveraging that in a very, very big way.
Yeah.
But you also are saying that's a dangerous game,
it's
which
the
it
most-
is,
it's the
because
most
you've also,
dangerous.
it's been dangerous in your past as well. Can we go into that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I put so much value in relationships. If I was with somebody, I could be happy.
Do you think in hindsight, looking back, I guess it's interesting because if you put so much value in relationships, and you and I have talked about this, I remember I think it was like episode 40 or something like that, a long, long time ago, decades ago. No, I'm kidding. But I remember you saying that you put a lot of value in women and a lot of value in relationships. What I think is interesting now looking back, I think your belief around what would get you women was very different than what it is now. Now it's vulnerability.
Yeah.
Now it's authenticity. Now it's being the best man you can be. Whereas in the past, you've told me it's like being jacked and good, like that kind of thing.
Because I got rewarded for it. That's why.
Yeah,
That's
right.
why.
Can we go into that for the listeners? Just because what motivates you is actually controlling you in a lot of ways until you become throwback, hyper-conscious of it, because now you can become the master of it. You know?
What's the actual question?
So how do you think that wired you? I guess your why power was always relationships in a big way. One of your big M's. Okay, mating/romance. That was an important one to you. I guess how has that affected who you became before you knew about them?
I would trade in other things for that.
Can you give an example?
Friendships,
Right.
experiences, freedom. I would trade in a lot of everything. I think the problem is it's changed a little bit. It's still something I value a ton, but I don't value it. I value it because of who I'm with more than the idea of it.
Right.
I wouldn't value any other relationship like I value this one because it wouldn't be the same.
Right.
So for me, it's Taryn. It's not the relationship. It is, obviously, but it's Taryn. There's a reason I have a picture in my mind of like, that's my why power.
Right.
Before, my significance I got from women. And I get a ton of significance from Taryn, but I get a ton of significance from the podcast, from speaking, from Podstrong. Like, my significance is all over the place.
Yeah.
So I don't need it as much from a woman. So now I can actually have a balanced, real relationship based on quality of conversation and communication, quantity of time we spend together. I'm not jealous. I'm not insecure.
Right.
Well, I still get insecure at times. Like, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
That's why I needed the validation of significance from somebody else because I couldn't find it myself.
It's like you put all your eggs in one of the 4 M's, and then that was kind of controlling you. Whereas now it's like you're kind of leveraging all of them.
And it didn't seem like that's the one. I could get the money. I got the money.
Yeah.
Right? That gave me some freedom, but not really. Well, mastery, I didn't really care about.
Let's do that if you're game. Old Kevin, and it's synchronistic too because Kevin showed me a video of him in 2013.
Yeah.
Earlier today, it was a trip. So imagine that Kevin. Go back to that Kevin who had just got the job, was in Delaware making $50 an hour or whatever, something like that. What were his 4 M's of motivation? Not what he was aware
Money.
of. Obviously, he wasn't aware of it. Versus now
Materials and possessions
was number 1.
was number 1.
Materials/money.
Yeah, materials. And then mating and romance.
Yep.
That was the top 2.
Okay.
I didn't care about freedom at all because I was traveling all over the place.
Right, for the money.
Mastery, and I didn't have anything I wanted to master.
Interesting. Such a trip.
I didn't care about anything else.
So if you're out there right now, you probably are. We want you to be thinking about your own M's of motivation.
Yes.
At one point, Kevin was focusing so much on money that he was willing to give up the other ones.
But I think this is the important thing. Your if you can leverage, what's the best way to put this? I am a way more abundant person when I have money. You know that.
Yeah, definitely.
That actually helps me get the other things.
Right.
In a weird way, as long as I don't just chase that one thing.
But that's because the way you make money is now creating more freedom.
Into everything else.
So here's a trip. 2013, Kevin, making more money meant less freedom.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
But I never knew how much I valued that.
Right.
Until I left and said, I'm never going back.
Yeah.
That was a weird thing. I wish I could show.
Well, if you're out there right now, just to hold space. So think about your M's of motivation. Again, mastery/status, mating/romance, movement/freedom, and money/materials. And they're all connected. The question is, which are your top ones that you're chasing? Maybe you're out there right now. So Kevin is showing this to YouTube. So it's a video of him on Instagram back in 2013. 7 likes, not bad, man. I know that's not. It's a repost from someone else. But if you're out there right now, what if it's just mating/romance that's running most of your motivation? It's almost like that. There's implications to letting each one run you. So, for example, Kevin and I, when we realized that mastery/status was my main one, I have to understand that if mastery/status is what matters to me most, in other words, mastering my craft, I can master my craft by myself in the gym every day, but that's not necessarily creating more money or freedom.
Yeah.
And so you have to try to figure out how to design your life in a way that leverages all of them and that they all feed into each other rather than one taking away from the other. Because let's say you have movement/freedom, like you're a spiritual person, you want to be able to walk in nature and enjoy nature. Okay, I see this all the time, man. People who are spiritual tend to love nature. That's wonderful. But they also have these huge financial goals. And it's like you have to find a way to make money that doesn't take you away from nature. Otherwise, you're going to always have this inner civil war going on like Kevin did, where he's chasing money at the expense of freedom.
I was chasing money at the expense of everything.
Right. And then you wondered why you were miserable. It's a trip.
That's something I talk about. Like, it's funny, Taryn said this. She's like, I love listening to the old episodes where you talk about friends with benefits and how valuable they are. And I was like, honestly, I still stand by that. They are valuable. But if you think about it, I traded in a ton of time with my friends. Again, I was literally home for like a night a week.
Yeah.
I didn't have any steady relationships. I had friends with benefits because that was easy.
10 months out of the year, man, on the road.
Yeah. So I always say like that from all outside perspectives was the rock star lifestyle. It kind of was, but I didn't have any of the rock star benefits of private jets and nice hotels.
Yeah, right.
Right, but I had
red roof inns,
yeah.
rounds of shots.
But I had financial freedom.
Right.
And that was kind of it.
Jacked.
I was jacked. I told Alan a story the other day, and this ties to significance and where you get your significance. We would be in New Jersey. It would be me and like 2 or 3 other guys. I would literally go up to the bar and say, how many shots can I buy? Like, what is the amount that you'll give me? And I think it was like 20. They're like, we can't give you any more because you'll like die. And I literally would go around with the bartender and hand them out to people. Like, that made me feel really good. That's significance.
Yeah.
Right? That's one of the reasons why some people want relationships. That's why some people want the nice cars, because it makes them feel significant. I want a nice car. Will it make me feel significant? Sure. Right. But that's not the only reason I'm doing it.
Right.
It's not just for that. I don't think when I get it, I'm going to be happier.
Yeah.
I don't. I think I'll be driving a nicer car.
It's a trip because it's like, not only do you have to know which one is driving you and which one you care about most, but you also have to know what is the belief that will get me this.
Yeah.
In other words, if you wanted love and connection from buying people shots or significance, you have to also understand, like, why am I doing this? What do I believe will get me love and connection? What do I believe will get me significance? Because it's interesting. A lot of these beliefs are just subconscious. And imagine you plug in your dreams into the GPS. You have your vehicle. Let's say it's podcasting. Okay. You have to have gas in the tank. So the 4 M's of motivation, no matter what your dreams are and no matter what vehicle it is, maybe it's speaking, maybe it's writing books, maybe it's, working as an executive in corporate, maybe it's, what's another thing? Maybe it's fixing cars. Whatever that vehicle is to get closer to your dreams, whether they be financial dreams, impact dreams, mastery dreams, you name it, that 4 M's of motivation is the gas in the tank. If you don't have motivation to get out of bed in the morning, if you don't have why power, do you know where your gas stations are? So for you, when you're not motivated, we just talked about this recently, what do you do to go fill your gas tank?
Take time.
Right.
I take a day.
Right.
I take a day. Like, even so much so where literally the other day I was like, I'm just not feeling, I'm exhausted. I could have gone back after like a couple hours. I've definitely leveled up that, but it was like, I'm good. I'm going to take a day.
Right.
I did my system.
Right.
I'm just going to take a day here and just be. Are there things I could be doing? Absolutely.
Always.
But I also know that there's been a lot of things going on. Like, again, building a couple businesses at the same time is not easy.
Right.
Right? It's not easy. So I'm going to be. Being fills my cup, and that's what I did, and I feel good.
And you typically go back too. Like, look how far
Yeah,
you've
I
come.
usually reflect. Like, I'll throw us up on the big screen or go on Instagram and look back a couple of years and see how far we've come.
Is that how that video came up?
No, somebody tagged me in that. One of the kids I used to work with tagged me in that.
Cool.
Which it was interesting to look back.
It's a trip.
It's interesting. it's interesting to say the least.
Before we go here, because we got 8 seconds on the clock, one question that I wanted to ask you is,
It's getting hot in here.
if you're willing to illuminate this to the listeners. So we just did kind of the 4 M's of motivation. We used you as an example. We often do. And if you're out there right now, I want you to think of you and how you used to be versus how you are now versus how you want to be. Okay? Past self, current self, future self. You talked to me a little bit about how hard it was to look back on that version of you.
Oh, yeah.
Can you illuminate for anyone listening what that was like and what you learned from it?
I think we have probably a better filter to look through because we're able to do it so much. Because, again, we're always on camera. We're on other shows, with speeches, the podcast. So I think it's probably a little bit easier for me to reflect because I hear my voice all the time. That's an aversion for a lot of people. It's difficult to look back and think that person thought he knew what was going on. He thought he was a quality individual. I wasn't a bad person, but I wasn't the person I am today. I was very bro-ish. It's painful to reflect with a new sense of awareness because you're either thinking of potential you missed out on, things you might have done wrong, things you might have said wrong, things you might have thought were right that were wrong. I think reflecting with a higher awareness is always going to it's going to illuminate things.
What'd you learn from it? Because I love that you feel that way, but some people think like, oh, well, why would I look back if it's just painful? No, but look at what came with it.
Yeah.
What are you going to do differently now because of that?
I don't know that I'm going to do anything differently.
For me, when I send you those screenshots of how I used to be, it humbles me. It makes me. That was what, 7 years ago. So if 7 years ago you look back now and you're like, wow, that dude thought he knew. I remember this time. Remember 7 years from now.
Yeah.
I don't want to look back and think, oh, what an arrogant.
But you're going to say something.
I will say something, but it won't be the same thing.
Oh, okay. I like that.
That's the key.
I like that.
And so I
think it motivates me more than anything.
Right.
I don't even know that it humbles me because it's like 7 years ago. That's where you were.
Right.
Like so much has changed in 7 years. So it's
What
almost
else
like
can you
the
do?
opposite.
Yeah,
It's almost like
makes
the
sense.
opposite for me.
For me, it's humility. For you, it's self-confidence.
Yeah.
That's a trip.
Well,
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
We're the total
Drives
opposites
to
when it
5.
comes
Yeah.
to that. So what is one thing that somebody can think, say, do, or believe?
Is that why you wanted to do the 4 M's of motivation on some level?
Don't know.
It motivated you?
Maybe.
Interesting. What a trip.
Maybe.
That's awesome.
I had a call with somebody today who was struggling a bit, so we were talking about motivation.
Right.
But I thought of it on the ride down here.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's just cool that you said that. It's like, I think it motivates me. It's like,
it
cool.
does.
We're doing an episode on motivation.
It does. When I look back at the old studio, guys, if you're new to YouTube, if you don't listen on YouTube, if you look back 200 episodes, we're in a basement. If you look back 300 episodes, we have this dark, terrible backdrop. But for us, it was really nice because that was the first time we ever did that.
Yeah, right.
Right? So for me, looking back is like, wow, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
Trust me, I look forward to when we're going to have a gym at the studio. We're going to do a Joe Rogan style. Float tank, sauna, like we're going to have that.
Yeah.
We're going to have that. But I will look back on this and be like, wow, I can't believe.
The bathroom in the studio.
Oh, for sure. At one point, this was a dream. So for me, it is. If anything, it fills me up. So what can somebody say, think, do, believe, or whatever, any other adjective, verbs, adverbs, adjectives that I'm missing, to help them get to the next level.
You're asking me?
I'm asking you the question.
Kid.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Sounds good. If you want to get to the next level of your life, you're going to have to figure out which of these M's is the most important to you, and then figure out the way in which that has wired you up to this point. And then figure out how you want to be. How do you want to be wired? Just understand yourself at a deeper level. Self-awareness is everything. And we're actually doing an episode that Kevin's about to talk about, which is, how comfort is screwing you, and it's about rewiring your brain. So use this episode as an opportunity to prepare for the next one, which is, if you understand what motivates you, you're going to really understand how you've been wired up to this point on the next episode.
You lied to him. The next episode is, what is real happiness?
Oh, I've gone and Jeff.
That's okay. So Friday.
That's next week, Monday.
Yeah, next Monday. So Friday, we're talking about what is real happiness. We're going to go through some frameworks. And then next Monday, for 472, we are going to talk about how comfort is screwing you.
What about you
For me, honestly, understand what motivates you and then dig deeper to understand why it motivates you. Because if it motivates you because of significance, when you get it, you're not going to be motivated anymore.
Right.
So you got to find something that consistently motivates you.
Right.
And I think
write out these 4 M's.
Yeah.
And write out self-awareness. Assess yourself under each of them. Yeah?
I dig that.
Good takeaway.
Dig that. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this. As we alluded to, up next we are doing an episode on what is real happiness for episode number 470, creeping up to 500. We hope you enjoyed, and we will see you on the next one.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.